Alright, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and today we're going to be looking at the hottest deck to play to the World Championships, a Charizard EX Worlds format deck profile video. This is a deck that I personally have been really enjoying playing right now. I think this deck is actually a really strong play to Worlds because it has a good matchup into some of the top decks right now. It's a pretty good play, and I think Charizard is definitely a front runner for a good deck to bring to Worlds this year. I'm super excited to show off this new deck list that I've got here. My current take on Charizard, the inclusions and certain cards I have in here do help in specific matchups. It's a little bit of a teched out list, but I think this deck definitely is strong, and it's a pretty good time to play Charizard EX in my opinion. Of course, if you go on to enjoy the video and are enjoying the deck profile videos here I post on the second channel, make sure to leave a like on the video. I'd greatly appreciate it, and subscribe down below. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So Charizard EX, why is it good for Worlds? Well, because it is a dark type Pokemon, which is very good right now versus Gardevoir. I think personally Gardevoir is going to be the best deck to bring to Worlds. I think it has the best chance of winning Worlds, and I think a lot of top players are going to bring Gardevoir. So playing Charizard naturally just gives you a pretty solid matchup into that deck. Also, Burning Darkness is a really good attack that just ramps damage. Some decks really cannot handle the power of Charizard when it gets going, and of course, because Charizard is so good with Pidgeot, we gotta play it once again with Pidgeot in this deck. So to start things off here, Charizard is going to be our main attacker. We're going to be playing 3 copies of the Big Dragon. Just naturally having more Charizards is really good in the mid to late game. I like playing 2 in this deck. I tried 2, even with with double Super Rod and Night Stretcher. It's like you're not always finding Charizard. I think 3 is actually really good because it's just better to have more Charizards. A lot of the time you need to find combo pieces like Rare Candy Charizard Boss. Pretty good just have 3 in the deck. It just makes it easy to chain the Charizards. A lot of the time, too, if you make your board like double Charizard Pidgeot with nothing else, a lot of decks really struggle into that. And yeah, the more Charizards you have, the merrier. So we're going to be playing 3 copies of Charizard in the deck. Also, under Item Lock, this deck does rely heavily on a brand new engine to set up your board. Under Item Lock, it is really good to have multiple Charizards so you can find them when you need them. And then, of course, we got double Charmeleon. Well, pretty good to play Charmeleon. There's a good reason why we're playing 2. That's because we are going to be playing a very important tool card in the deck. Spoiler alert, that does help us find our evolutions. Now, I decided to play the Split Charmeleon. This one does have Flare Veil, which does make this Charmeleon immune to Phantom Dive while it's on the bench. Also, this guy cannot get TM Devoed, which is pretty relevant. And then we do have this Charmeleon with 100 HP. Really good to have the HP because it just makes you more resilient to TM Devo against Grimmsnarl. Also, keep in mind, if you're up against Goldengo, you can actually attack with this Charmeleon, technically speaking, with a max spell. That's just one little play I thought I would bring up. I've actually done that before, where I used Fire Blast into Goldengo. So it comes up, because we do play a very important ace spec in the deck. I don't want to spoil too much about the list, but we got some pretty big cards in here that really do synergize with Charizard. And then finally, we got 3 Charmanders. Honestly, you could go up to 4 Charmander, but finding space for the 4th Charmander is really difficult in my opinion, so I'm going with 3. The 3-2-3 split is pretty good in my opinion. The downside of playing 3 Charmander is that if you prize one, you only have 2. Sometimes benching Charmander early or late game gets it knocked out. You have to be a little careful with 3. I'm not sold on 3 yet. I definitely wouldn't mind trying to play 4, but I just can't find room for the 4th Charmander. For now, I'm just going with a 3-2-3 line of Charizard. I think this works pretty fine, and just having the higher count of Charizard EX just allows you to pull off these Charizard plays more consistently when you actually need to do them, which is why I've gone with this count of the Lizard. And then, of course, like I said, we are going to be playing the Pidgeot in the deck. This is one of the most important cards in the Charizard deck. I do like Dragapult Charizard, and I think that could be a really good deck for Worlds too, but this Pidgeot just makes the deck so much more consistent because Quick Search is a broken ability. Obviously, it allows you to search deck for any card you want. Really good when you're trying to chain combo pieces. Also, sometimes when you set up a board of Pidgeots and Charizards, the opponent really does struggle into you, and you can create these really cool checkmate board states. That's one thing I'll say about playing Charizard is when you play the deck, you got to keep your eye out on any board states you can make where the opponent can't really do anything about it. That's just how good this deck really is. Sometimes just throwing Charizards in your opponent's face every single turn makes it really difficult for the opponent to deal with you. So you're against like Raging Bolt or Goldengo, if you can constantly chain these guys and take a 2-prize turn every time you attack with it, it's really good. And in order to do that and find Candy Charizard and sometimes even Boss's Order in the same turn, it's really good to play Quick Search. Now we are going to be playing a Pidgeotto in the deck because we are going to be using TM Evo. I guess I got to spoil that. Yes, this deck is going to be relying on TM Evo to get out our evolution. So if we're getting Budded, you know, we want to be able to go TM Evo into Pidgeotto, and the following turn evolve it into Pidgeot and get that boy out real quick. Also, against TM Devolution decks in general, it's really good to have Pidgeotto underneath the Pidgeot, because if you just have Pidgey underneath, especially the 50 HP Pidgey, you can get pretty easily bodied by TM Devolution. So it's really important, in my opinion, to always have Pidgeotto. So if you're playing against a deck that uses Devo, you want to kind of take your time, and you want to build up a Pidgeot with a Pidgeotto if you can. If you prize Pidgeotto, whoop-de-doo. It sucks, obviously. But a lot of the time with the Pidgeot, you want to try to get it out via Pidgeotto if you can. But there's matchups where you can easily just rare candy Pidgeot out because you know you're not ever getting Devolutioned out of the game. So Pidgeotto's good. I have seen some lists play 2 Pidgeotto, which I don't hate either. But once again, I can't fit 2. Gabriel Fernandez's list from NEIC did play 2, so if you want to experiment with a double Pidgeotto, you can. I've been fine with 1 for now. And I also got the 2 Pidgey split, because sometimes you just need Call for Family to bail you out of a tricky situation to get 2 base Pokemon in your deck. Sometimes it just comes up where you have a dead hand, and you're like, oh crap, I have to Call for Family to stay in the game. So the double Pidgey split I've been really liking. You kind of get punished with a 50 HP Pidgey versus Dragapult, Dusclops, but that matchup is already a pretty bad matchup for this deck anyways. This is, the deck's worst matchup is Pultzard, or Pultnor, sorry. Pultzard's actually decent, but Pultnor, sorry, is a really bad matchup for this deck, so you're already taking a bad matchup anyways. Like, the Pidgey difference really isn't going to make night or day. And then we have our tech cards in the deck. This deck does play some tech Pokemon to help support Charizard. Now, there's no ghosts in the deck. We're actually not going to be playing Dusknoir. We're instead going to be playing a Munkidori as our psychic support Pokemon. So the idea behind Munkidori is that it's the same thing as like a damage modifier for Charizard. It gives you 30 more damage to work with Adrenabrain. Munkidori is just really good right now to heal your board against spread decks like Dragapult, Grimmsnarl, and when your opponent can't one-shot a Charizard, if they put damage on the board, this gives you 30 free damage to work with. There's actually some really important math involved with Munkidori. So effectively speaking, when you're playing against Charizard, you're trying to play around Burning Darkness the best you can. You're trying to not take prizes where necessary. You're basically trying to just limit the damage Burning Darkness does. This deck, this build specifically, has ways to get past and break through the opponent trying to play around Burning Darkness. Munkidori is a really good way to do so. Not only do you get to heal your Charizard, which can be important, but you also get to do 30 more damage. So it's effectively like an extra prize your opponent would have taken, if that makes any sense. So if you're playing against Dragapult, they're on 2 prizes, and they're trying to set up maybe like a 4-prize turn to wipe your board and win the game. All you have to do is go Munkidori, attach Dark, Adrenabrain 30, Burning Darkness for 300 damage for the knockout. You can also stack Munkidori, so like over the course of a couple turns, you can be Munkidoring to a Pokemon on the bench. And that Pokemon, when it comes into the active spot, will already have like 6 damage on it. Then that can be knocked out by Charizard a bit more easily. So Munkidori is really good to help fix Burning Darkness math, and it heals your board. It's just a really good card to have right now. Like, this deck without Munkidori would probably be a little mediocre, just because, I mean, Munkidori is like one of the best cards in the game right now, and I think this deck does really get a lot of value out of how good this card really is. And then, one of the reasons why this deck has such a good matchup spread is because of Chi-Yu. This completely gives this deck a great time into both Goldengo and Raging Bolt, which are pretty good decks, right? Goldengo is honestly positioned to be maybe the most played deck at Worlds, if not the second to third most played deck. If you're going to Worlds, I definitely do not want to take a bad matchup into Goldengo. And Chi-Yu completely makes that matchup really free. Like, well, it's not free, but it's definitely, like, very favored for Charizard. It's one of the main selling points of playing this deck is that you get to use Chi-Yu, and Chi-Yu is so ridiculous. So it does have that attack, Mega Fire of Envy. If one of your Pokemon are knocked out last turn, you get to do 140 damage for 2 fire, which against Goldengo, that one-hit KOs them, which is really, really good. So the idea of the deck is they take a knockout usually with, like, a Scizor or Goldengo on, like, a 1-prizer. You then evolve into Charizard. You Infernal Rain, use its ability, you put 2 energy on the Chi-Yu, 1 on the Charizard, and then the Chi-Yu kills the Goldengo, and you have this board where it's like, this is your board, and it's like, okay, the Goldengo player can kill your Charizard, take 2 prizes, try to get more of a prize lead, but then the Chi-Yu comes back and then just kills the Goldengo, and during that turn, hopefully you can establish a second Charizard or work towards another Charizard. So, like, basically, against Goldengo, the opponent cannot ignore Chi-Yu. Like, they have to respect this card, especially if you can find Boss and Counter Catcher every time they go around it. So if your opponent's trying to kill your Pidgeot or your Charizard, leaving the Chi-Yu alone, you can just keep sitting there spamming a knockout on their Goldengo. So this card is so good, and it's one of the main reasons why Goldengo is a good matchup for this deck. It's one of the selling points about playing Charizard, is it's really good into Goldengo. Also, this is good into Raging Bolt. It gives you a one-prizer that can kill Teal Mask Ogerpon, so that's really good. You KO their engine, part of their engine anyways, for damage output, and you get to put a one-prizer in the active, forcing the Raging Bolt player to have to find a way around Chi-Yu. And it's kind of the same predicament with Goldengo, is that they have multiple Teal Mask in play. If they're ignoring the Chi-Yu, then you're just constantly gusting out those Pokemon that Chi-Yu one-shots, making this card a very high-power card. It's actually really hard to play around Chi-Yu. Like, a lot of the time with Goldengo, you kind of checkmate your opponent with Chi-Yu. It's actually really common for that to happen. If your board is like this, like say you have like maybe, I don't know, like a Pidgeot play or something, and you have like a backup Charmander on the bench. Like, this is your board against Goldengo with 2 energy on Chi-Yu. You just sit there, go Mega Fire of Envy. The Goldengo player is left in a position where it's like, KO the Pidgeot, sure, but like that deck doesn't play much hand disruption, so the pick on the Pidgeot doesn't do a whole lot. You can also then bench Fez. They KO the Charizard, where you keep the Pidgeot, which allows you to set up another Charizard, or gust around the Goldengo. They got to go Scizor. Or if they ignore these two, the Charizard is just going to do even more damage. In fact, at that point, they take one prize, they kill the Chi-Yu, the Charizard will do 240 damage, and then you can maybe knock out Genesector Fez if it's in play, or ideally, you can use a very important tool card in this deck to blow up the Goldengo. So Chi-Yu it just makes your Goldengo matchup really good, and yeah, this one of the selling points of this deck is that you get to really utilize the power of Chi-Yu. To set up the deck, we have some support mons. We got a Cleffa and a Fez. Fez, just obviously we're going to play it in a deck like this, but the Cleffa is really good as a good Pokemon to go into turn 1. Good against Goldengo, good against Raging Bolt. Something you just push in the active spot to guarantee a really strong turn 2. So Cleffa is really good. Also in the late game, it's really nice sometimes. Sometimes your board needs to be reestablished. And if your opponent can't really do anything about you going Iono into Cleffa for a few turns, it's actually not a bad way to rebuild up your board. It can actually let you set up another really good board in the late game. Like Cleffa's good in the early game, but it's also not bad in the late game. You definitely keep your eye out for how good Cleffa can be. And that's the Pokemon lineup in the deck. I have seen Zardless playing Blood Moon Ursa Luna, or even like other attackers like Gouging Fire EX or the new Reshiram EX. One of the selling points of this also is Chi-Yu is really good against Crustle and really good against Cornerstone Ogerpon. So you have a good attacker versus Cornerstone with the Chi-Yu, and you also have a great way to deal with Crustle. So the Chi-Yu is a very good card, but you definitely can add other Fire-type Pokemon in here if you want to make your matchup into Cornerstone and Crustle better. I wouldn't respect Crustle for Worlds, but Cornerstone definitely is a little sus, you know. I don't think you want to take an automatic L into Cornerstone. We have some very good cards in this deck, though, to make the Chi-Yu blow up the Cornerstone. But you can definitely try out other Fire Pokemon. If you want to play the Gouging Fire EX, or you want to play Reshiram EX to make Cornerstone more free, you definitely can. All right, going to the trainers and supporters, we got 4 copies of Arven. We did lose 4 Seal Stone with rotation, but Arven is still a really good setup card for this deck. 3 Iono for draw. Being able to draw cards is pretty dang good in my opinion, and Iono is a great card in combination with Charizard. Sometimes going Charizard, Iono, knock out the active puts you in a position where the opponent like sometimes can't even win the game, because if they have no way to get around that, sometimes you just win on the spot. So we're going to play 3 Iono. 2 Boss. This is definitely up in the air. I've tried 3 Boss. 3 Boss is actually really good because sometimes the game plan of Charizard is to just sit there and boss stuff out over and over again. Really good against spread decks where you can go around and take out their monkeys or take out Frostlass, for example. I kind of want to try out 3 Boss. We do play 2 Counter Catcher, but for now I'm just playing the double boss. And then for the other setup cards, we got a Brock Scouting in the deck. Really good way to find evolution Pokemon. You can search check for 2 basic Pokemon or an evolution. So under item lock, you can use it as a Buddy Poffin or to help find Charmeleons, Charmander, or Charizards, or Pidgeotos and stuff. Turo, mandatory card in Charizard. Turo is really good to pick up Fez, or also good to heal your Charizard EX if it takes a hit. Or you use Turo to basically make yourself what I like to call the god of board state. If the opponent's in a position where they can never kill a Charizard that easily, and you win the game if they don't kill the Charizard, but you have a liability in play, you can go Turo, pick that Pokemon up, make your board like double Charizard, and the opponent probably can't do anything about that. You can actually sometimes Turo your own Pidgeot, which I've done many times with this deck, just literally make your board Charizard, and the opponent can't do anything about it, and sometimes that just wins you the game on the spot. And it's really good against any deck that tries to stall and trap you out of the game. And then lastly, we have Hilda. This is a very good addition to the deck, and this card plays a very big role because this deck plays two very important special energy cards to help make the deck more consistent. So what Hilda does is it finds you an evolution, so it gets you Charizard plus said special energy. There's a very important one in here to help against Grimmsnarl, and even some Guardy lists, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But that's the supporter lineup. Again, 3 boss is something I've been experimenting with. I don't hate the idea of 3 boss in here, but I also can see 2 being fine. You could try Palpad, I guess, but I think Palpad's value is kind of low right now. I definitely think 3 boss is just better, because then naturally you have boss more often than not. All right, going to the items. You know, we got 4 Poffin, the normal setup card, 3 Ultra Ball, and a Nest Ball. We have a Stadium in here, so we're only going to play 1 Nest Ball in the deck, but you can definitely play 2 Nest Ball, but I like just 1. 1 is fine. 4 Poffin, 1 Nest, 3 Ultra is like pretty decent in my opinion. We also have the Brock Scouting to help find basics if need be. 3 Candy. We do rely on our Stage 1 Pokemon in this deck quite often, but a lot of the time, you just want to go Rare Candy Charizard, Rare Candy Pidgeot, so we're just going to play 3 Candies to make that more easier. Also, 3 Candies naturally gives you the chance of finding it when you actually need it. Double Candy is something that I've seen in some Zard lists, but I do like 3 Rare Candy because, like I said, naturally when you're just trying to find the candy combo, it's just better to have 3 because you're just finding it. You don't need to play 4. It's a little overkill in this deck, but 3 is like a pretty good amount. It just makes it more consistent overall. We got 2 Counter Catcher, another very crucial card in the deck. When you're, a lot of the time you do play from behind with this deck. That's one of the main strategies of Charizard, play from behind, let your opponent take prizes so they can, you know, set up a bigger Burning Darkness KO for later on for you. 2 Counter Catcher is like essentially like double boss, right? So it gives us 4 Gust to work with in a game. I can definitely see 3 boss, 2 Counter Catcher. I don't think 1 Counter Catcher, 2 boss is ideal, because a lot of the time you're trying to go like Counter Catcher Iona with this deck. So yeah, double Counter Catcher is very necessary. Double Super Rod to get Fire Energy and Pokemon back. Pretty much important to find Chiyus and Energies to recycle them, so you can spam Charizard. We only play a certain amount of Fire Energy, so it's really important to have Double Rod to help get the energy back in the deck. And then we got some tech cards here. So I got 2 tech item cards for specific matchups. The first one is Picnic Basket. Heal 30 damage from each Pokemon, both yours and your opponent. Basically, this is just here to help against Devo decks. If our opponent is trying to set up a Devo play on us, we can use Picnic Basket to heal off our Pokemon, and then usually that resets their turn they did, so they have to wait another turn to try to Devo you, but a lot of the time, the Picnic Basket buys you that turn you need to kind of force through and win the game, or make it so you just can't lose. So Basket's really good. You can also heal your opponent's Munkidori damage, which is kind of important, not gonna lie. So this card is very useful in this deck. It's just here to protect against Grimmsnarl and Guardy, mainly because Guardy's actually been playing Flutter Mane Devo. My local specifically, like in the GTA, the Toronto area, like there's a lot of people playing Gardevoir and a lot of people playing Flutter Mane Devo in their Guardy lists. So if I'm playing Zard in at least Toronto, I'm playing a Picnic Basket. But even going into Worlds, you got to respect the Devos in my opinion. I think Gardevoir definitely might play it. The next tech card is Tool Scrapper. So I've seen Zard play Jamming Tower. Jamming Tower is not bad. It's also good against Devo. But Tool Scrapper is actually really crucial versus Goldango. Now, Goldango plays Genesect with Ace Nullifier, which means you cannot use your Ace Spec, and your Ace Spec is a very important card in this deck. It's actually the most important card in the deck. Without this Ace Spec being played, I don't think this deck would actually be as good into some of the other top decks. So Tool Scrapper makes it so that if the opponent plays Genesect, we can get rid of the Tool card and then play our Ace Spec, which is actually really important. Also, good against Gardevoir. If they Drifloon you, you can Tool Scrapper to knock out the Drifloon and then hopefully kill Guardy in the same turn, take a 3-prize turn, and win the game. So this card is broken in this deck. I really like Tool Scrapper in here. Very good card in my opinion. And then double TM Evo. This is how we are going to set up our board. We're going to play TM Evo. Candy is good, but again, against decks using TM Devolution, it's actually really important to be able to evolve your Charmander to Charmeleon or your Pidgey into Pidgeotto, because against a deck using Devo, it's good to have. Also against Dragapult, it's pretty good to be able to do that, because they're going to spam Budu against you, and if you're not able to candy out your little guys, you're just not evolving your Pokemon, and then you're going to lose a bunch of your little guys before you even get to play the game, and you're probably going to be too far behind to win, or your setup is going to be too jank to even have a chance. So TM Evo just lets you put out your Charmeleons and stuff, and yeah, it's really good to have double TM Evo. It's a very good card. One of the best parts about playing this deck is how strong TM Evo really is in here. Another tool is Air Balloon. Better than Rescue Board. It technically is better in most scenarios. And against Munkidori, sometimes when you're playing against Gardevoir, they'll just panic Mind Bend you. If your board is double Charizard, you just go Arven for Air Balloon, retreat the Charizard out of the confusion without having to pay an energy, and then just blow them up with another Charizard, and oh, look at that, double Zard and play one with an Air Balloon. Like, what are they going to do? Like, it's a really good card against Gardevoir, and it's just the best tool card for retreating in this deck. It's better than playing Big Air Balloon. It's obviously better than Rescue Board, in my opinion. All right, A-Spec time, Max Belt. Yes, this is the A-Spec of choice. I don't think there's a better A-Spec to play. I think Unfair Stamp is cute. I like it. I think Unfair Stamp is better in Pultzard, not in this deck. We're not playing Budu in here. Our setup isn't as consistent. Or it's more consistent, but it's less effective for using the Unfair Stamp. I think Max Belt is better because with Max Belt, Charizard one-shot stuff. So you're playing against Dragapult, you're playing against Grimmsnarl, even Zardmere. If they take 3 prize cards, this thing just one-shots the Pult and the Grimmsnarl, and you force them to have to respect it. You can honestly make a very big Charizard by using Max Belt alongside a very important special energy card I'm going to talk about. So if you can do that, the opponent can't do anything about you, and you just sit there with the Charizard and just blow your opponent up, and they can't get rid of the Max Belt. You just hopefully can go Gust for game, take 4 prizes in 2 turns. Max Belt's really good. Also, if the opponent doesn't play around it, they get punished really hard. And against Goldango, if they take 1 prize card, you can go Tool Scrapper, Max Belt, blow up the Goldango, and then they knock out your Charizard, and then you go Charizard, you're doing 270 damage, and then you don't need any damage modifier to kill the Goldango. So also just makes your Goldango matchup even easier alongside the Tool Scrappers. If you play against a deck with Genesect, it's good to have it. I might expect Genesect to be slightly popular this weekend in Worlds, mainly because... or next weekend, I should say, at Worlds, because Genesect is pretty good against Goldango. Goldango is predicted to be one of the best decks at Worlds. It's going to be very popular. I wouldn't be surprised if Genesect with Ace Nullifier popped up in other decks than just Goldango. I wouldn't be surprised if Dragapult started running that again. So just having this to be able to play your Max Belt is really good. So I think this combo is really good. I think if you're going to play Max Belt with Charizard, I think you have to play the Tool Scrapper. It's almost too good not to play, in my opinion. So Max Belt is nice. Again, if your opponent takes 3 prizes, you're doing 320 damage, and you're one-shotting Grimmsnarl, you're one-shotting Dragapult. If the Dragapult or Grimm player isn't very, like, if they're not knowledgeable on the matchup, a lot of people aren't really knowledgeable on Charizard. It's still kind of a fresh, new, popular deck in the format. It's been a while since this deck has been good. So sometimes the opponent just walks into Max Belt without realizing, and you just completely punish them, and a lot of the time it just wins you the game. Most of the time when you get a free Max Belt KO, it's like how you win the game. It's just that good of a card. Also, Max Belt Munkidori lets you do 80 damage out of nowhere, which is also ridiculous. See, this thing just blows anything up in the active with Max Belt Munkidori. It's also ridiculous how good that combo is. For stadiums, we got double Artisan to set up your board. Under item lock, you can't play Buddy Poffin, so you might as well play 2 Artisan. Also really good to find your Munkidoris and your Chiyus, and also keep it in play to loop it. If they don't bump the Artisan and you need to spam Monkey or Chiyu over and over again, you can like rot it back and then Artisan it out for free. So I really like double Artisan in here over double Nestball. Finally, the energy count. We got 5 fire energy, of course, for the Charizard. 5 is fine. We play double Super Rod. We also play 1 luminous energy, so it's not the end of the world. And 1 dark energy, mainly just here for Munkidori. You can raw the dark back, so if your opponent kills Munkidori, obviously a lot of decks will respect the Monkey. Though ironically, if they kill Monkey, sometimes it actually is good for you because they're not damaging your Charizard. But I digress. The opponent chases Monkey, which they will do. You want to be able to rod it back, you can go Rod, get back Dark Munkidori. So the Dark energy is really good because you can get back both the Dark and the Monkey with the Rod. Finally, we got a Luminous energy. I think it's here for the same purpose, like just it acts as a Dark energy. You can also use Mind Bend in this deck. There isn't really much more purpose it serves. Like, none of the other Pokemon can really utilize it. It's mainly just here for Munkidori. You could theoretically cut this for a 6th Dark energy. I don't hate the idea of that, but it is nice having double Dark, so you don't prize one, I guess. It's give or take. It also acts as a Fire energy, so it's like, if you have to get a Fire energy attachment for turn, Luminous does have your back. So the Luminous energy, I think, does make sense in here. And then finally, 1 Mist Energy. This is one of the most important cards in the deck, and one of the reasons why we play Hilda. So, Mist Energy makes it so that your Charizard, or ideally your Pidgeot, can't get Devoed, or Phantom Dived. So, if the opponent is playing TM Devolution, you know they have TM Devo, for example, you just put Mist Energy on your Charizard, and you have a Mist Energy Charizard that can't get Devoed. You can also put Mist Energy on Charizard. You can't get Munkidori Mind Bended, which is pretty funny, but ideally you're trying to block Devo. Also, you can put this on a bench Pokemon, so it can't get Phantom Dived, which is kind of cool. You can actually protect your Pidgeys, which is kind of smart. So if you have to set up a Pidgeot, you can always Mist Energy to it, so it can't get Phantom Dived. You can also just put this on Pidgeot in general if you know your opponent plays Devo, so the opponent is in a spot where they have to like chase the Pidgeot, but then they're not, like I said, attacking this guy, which is pretty important. So Mist Energy is very good. I don't think 2 is necessary, but like there's even a time where it's like, 2 could be good. Imagine having Mist Energy on 2 Stage 2 Pokemon that can't get Devoed. Slightly overkill, but I definitely like the Mist Energy. I think it is, like Max Belt and Munkidori, I think it's the most mandatory card in this deck because it makes it so that you can't automatically lose to Devo. And I think Devo will be common this weekend or next weekend at Worlds. I do expect Gardevoir and stuff to be playing Devo, so I definitely like the Miss Energy to make it so I can't randomly lose to TM Devolution spam. So there you go, folks. That is my Charizard deck for Worlds. Like I said, this is the hottest deck you can play to Worlds. I think it's a fairly I don't think it's under the radar. I think Charizard will be somewhat popular at Worlds. It might get represented between both Dragapult Charizard and normal Charizard. I think normal Charizard is slightly better than Pulsar. I think both are good decks. They both serve good purposes. This deck has a slightly worse Pulsar matchup than Pulsar does, but this deck is still pretty solid, and I think that it's a great pick for Worlds. It has a good matchup versus Gardevoir. It's got a good Goldango matchup, a good Raging Bolt matchup. Grim and Dragapult obviously will be sketchy, and I think if you're playing against a good player on those decks, it's going to be a little challenging, but I think because of the certain tech cards we put in the deck, we have a fighting chance against them if you play well. And I'm a big fan of Charizard right now. If I was playing at Worlds this year, I would 100% consider this deck. It would probably be my second pick behind, you know, good old reliable Goldango, my favorite deck. But yeah, I definitely have Charizard high on my radar going into Worlds this weekend, or next weekend. I keep saying that. Hope you enjoyed the video, though, on the Zard deck profile. Are you somebody who's looking to play Zard to Worlds? Let me know in the comment section below. What other cards do you think could be good in this deck? Again, my 60-second cards I'd like to add would be 4th Charmander and a 3rd Boss's Order. Those are all cards I would like to put in here, but can't fit them all, unfortunately. Hope you enjoyed the video on the deck profile. If you did, leave a like. If you're new here to the second channel, subscribe down below. If you want to see more deck profile videos, again, leaving a like in the video would be greatly appreciated, and I'll catch you on the video very soon. Bye-bye.